If you're heading into the backcountry, whether it's just for a weekend camping trip or even a long distance thru hike, much like I'm planning, chances are you've had to consider how you're going to be dealing with your food, specifically how you're going to be storing and carrying it. Now, this squirrel's mad at me. You're safe. I'm fine. Let it go. Anyway, when it comes to storing your food on the trail, there's typically 3 different trains of thought. And I'm going to give you a quick breakdown on each of those. Now, the first, of course, is perhaps not only the dumbest, but it's also perhaps the most dangerous method. And that pretty much deals with keeping your food inside of your tent with you at night. I don't recommend this for several reasons. First of all, it, of course, invites critters to chew through your tent and then chew through your bag and then chew into your food bag and not only eat what you have, kind of making it unsafe for you to consume at that point because rodents and critters spread diseases, and that's gross. But it also tends to help those critters associate people with food, and that's not something you want to do at all. It makes things dangerous for everybody involved, especially if you get up to the point where a bear learns to deal with people and associate them with food. I've seen this very, very many times when I was out on the Appalachian Trail last year, and of course you hear about it all the time. You hear about, national parks where bears get friendly, and when it gets to the point where you have to install bear-proof trash cans and okay, I'm going to stop before I get too deep into the weeds on this because it's a safety issue. Now, the second method is using a bear bag, and that's essentially just a lightweight bag that you pack all your food in, that during the day you use it to pop into your pack, and at night you have a way to tie a string to the top of that, whether it's through a carabiner or some other system. Then you fling a rock on a string over a limb, you haul it up, and that's how you have it at night. And when it comes to actually using a bear bag to hang your food, there are 2 separate methods for that, and I'm going to be giving you a demonstration of both of those in an upcoming video. Enough! Stop! This squirrel doesn't like me at all. Now, of course, the third train of thought when it comes to keeping your food protected from critters in the backcountry, well, that's going to be using a bear canister. Now, up until this point, I've never actually used a bear canister because I didn't have to. The majority of the hiking I've done has been in the eastern part of the United States. I've done a little bit of hiking out west, but that really wasn't anything where it was required, so I never needed one. I never looked into it. I thought it was kind of silly at the point in time, but because I am hiking the Florida Trail this year, and well, there are sections of that trail that require one, and it's also going to be required on certain parts of other trails I hike in the future, I decided to pick one up. And the one I got was actually this one right here. This is the BearVault BV500, so it's the large size of their bear canister. Now let's go ahead and start off and give you some dimensions on this little beastie. Well, its empty weight is 2 pounds 9 ounces, and the internal volume is 700 cubic inches. It's fairly sizable. Of course, I'm not going to forget you folks that use the metric system. That all equates to 1.19 kilograms with an 11.5 liter internal volume. This is supposedly good enough for 7 days worth of food. Now, do you have to carry 7 days worth of food in this thing? No. I'm probably going to be carrying an average of 5 and using the excess space to store my cook kit, my first aid kit, and things like that. Oh, toothpaste. Also, you want to be putting toothpaste and toothbrush inside of your bear canister or your bear bag at night. Just anything that smells, you're going to be keeping in here. And in an upcoming video, I'm going to be giving you a quick rundown on how to pack one of these in the most efficient manner possible so that you're not wasting space and extra weight inside of your pack. So that's going to be coming up here in the future. Now, just because you're in a location that doesn't require you to use a bear canister, that doesn't mean you can't use one. I mean, it's pretty much interchangeable with a bear bag when it comes to the vast majority of time you're spending on the Appalachian Trail specifically. Again, with the PCT and the CDT and other trails out west, there are locations where you are required to have one of these. You don't even have the option of using a bear bag. Now, there was one dude in my tramway on the early part of my hike last year on the AT where he just carried a bear canister instead of actually using a bear bag. And I gotta admit, there were times when I was actually very jealous of that, because if you've done any hiking before on the Appalachian Trail, I will tell you right now that the vast majority of campsites, you're gonna have a hard time finding good branches that overhang an area where you can actually hang a bear bag. The trees get beat up every year. I mean, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people use these campsites, and they tend to break a lot of the overhanging branches. So there was nights when you spend 45 minutes trying to find a good place to hang. All you had to do, if you had one of these, was load it up, fill it up, walk a couple hundred feet away from your tent site, plunk this sucker down, and you're golden. All you have to do is go back to your tent and go to sleep. I did see the appeal to that. It didn't make sense to me at the time to actually carry something that by itself weighs 2.5 pounds empty. Hi, woodpecker. But looking back now, convenience is sometimes worth the extra weight. Now, I chose the BearVault over some of the other options that are out on the market for a couple reasons, not the least of which was the cost. You know, you're going to be looking at spending between 85 and 100 bucks for your average bear canister. When I picked this one up, it was about $90. And of course, I'm going to have a link in my description below for this particular product. And some of the other ones that are out on the market are, say, the Ursack, which is essentially just a fiber bag, like a Kevlar bag that you put your food in, but you still have to hang that. And the other brands of canister like this are things like those that are made by Barricade, or it's called the Barricade. I can't remember the brand that makes it off the top of my head. I saw it briefly. I didn't look into it because as soon as I saw the price of it, actually scratch that, as soon as I saw what it was made of, I knew the price was going to be up there. The Barricade is actually made of carbon fiber, and you're going to start spending some cubic dollars at that point. I want to say it was about 400 bucks for just a couple less ounces than this one. So there's trade-offs. I'm not going to lose sleep over 9 ounces more for the weight of plastic versus carbon fiber when I ended up saving over $300 versus the other one. That's a good enough trade-off for me. So I do plan on giving this a thorough once over. Of course, I am going to be carrying this in place of a bear bagging kit when I'm hiking the Florida Trail this year. And I'm actually going to be using it a bit in the fall, winter, and spring through next year. I really want to see what this thing does over the long term. Apparently you can really beat the snot out of this thing and it's going to hold up. The other thing is, it's kind of okay. You don't have to carry an extra camp chair because this is big enough for me to use as a stool when I'm in camp. It's another reason I got this versus an Ursack or something else like that. I want something that's multi-use. Because if you think of it this way, if you're going to be carrying a little collapsible camp chair, they're going to be about 2 pounds. This weighs a little over 2.5, and it holds stuff. That's a bonus in my book. And yes, I have already sat on this thing and tried it out as a stool. And let me tell you one thing, if it could support my big self, chances are you're not going to have a problem using this as a stool as well. So that's a win-win. So you can see it has a very, very large opening in the end of it, and it's got a pretty durable top. Now there are a couple things that they actually write on top of here that kind of just make sense. If you're going to be using a lot of bug spray, and I'm going to be using a lot of bug spray this year because I'm going to be hiking in Florida. One thing that if you have sunglasses, a lot of plastic materials, and especially something like this, the polycarbonate, you're going to want to keep DEET away from it because DEET tends to eat plastic. It'll bubble up and it'll warp it, and it's not good for it at all. And of course, common sense, you don't want to put something like this next to a campfire because if it melts, you're kind of hosed. Now right on the top of here, you're probably going to see these two little tabs and this little nub right on the polycarbonate itself. That, of course, is what keeps this whole thing sealed. You just pack what you want, you thread it on, and they're going to clip in place. Now, to get those undone, you just go ahead and push on the little ridge right above that. You do have to use a fair bit of pressure to get those over that little bump. Again, this is designed to keep out bears. So, once you get that unlocked, then you have quite a bit of internal volume. And a sticker. Okay, now that we have a quick first impression of this thing, I do have a couple pros and cons that pop to mind immediately. First pro, this seems pretty darn rugged. I think this will hold up for quite a long time. Secondly, it's clear. So, you're going to see exactly where your food is and what part of your canister you have everything stored in, so you're not really going to have to root around blindly. There are times I can personally say that if you have a bear bag or if there was a darker canister you were holding things in, you'd be dumping everything out to find one particular thing. I shouldn't have that problem with this. Third, it's a multitasker. This thing's beefy, like I just mentioned, and it's big enough for me to use as a stool when I'm in camp. I can't tell you the number of times when you're trying to find a place where you just want to find some place to plop down that's not soaking wet. Now I have a camp chair. Fourth pro, you can just go ahead and plop this thing down in the woods a couple hundred feet away from your tent and you're good to go. You don't have to hang this thing. hang on, you actually do have to hang this in the Smokies, even though you have a bare canister, and you're gonna have to find a way to put this inside of something to hang from the bare cables, because this isn't good enough for the Smokies. There's some dumb regulations in the Smokies. It is what it is. But just know that 99.9% of the time, you're not going to have to hang this in a tree at night. You just go ahead and walk this out, plop it down, and you're good to go. Now, cons. Empty. Like I said, this is 2 pounds 9 ounces. That's kind of a lot for just an empty canister. Now, you can offset, again, like I said, the fact that this weighs about as much as a camp chair and this doubles as a camp chair. I'm going to call that kind of a draw. The other thing is the size of it. Now, yes, you can hold a lot of stuff in here, but the fact that you have to store this somehow in or on your pack, that could cause issues. Now, I do plan on just go ahead and putting this whole darn thing inside of my backpack. I have a pack big enough that I can do that. Now, if I had everything full, these ridges in here, they're actually kind of meant to be guides to help you slip a cord or something that they'll actually kind of fit in there and be able to, you know, clamp your stuff down onto the top of your pack. I might dabble with that in passing. That's not the primary way that I'm going to be carrying this. So those are my initial impressions of the BearVault BV500. Now, again, the large size seems like exactly what I planned on getting, and it's actually a little bit bigger than I thought, which in my mind is a bit of a bonus. Now, once I get a couple miles on this thing and really give it a good once over, I'm going to be coming back and showing you a couple things that I might have missed here. And again, in the upcoming video, like I said, I will show you how to pack this thing the most efficiently for carrying 7 days worth of food. Again, do you have to carry 7 days worth? No, but I'm going to, and I'm going to show you how to do it. That's my initial rundown of the BearVault BV500. Now, if you've got any questions, tips, tricks, ideas, things I haven't thought of, go ahead and leave those in the comments down below. I'm sure it'll help anybody who reads them, including myself. But that's really all I got for you today. So like I always say, thanks again for watching. Make sure you find a reason to smile today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Now, if you were in some place that did... Wow. You're lucky it's not your season. They were close. Anyway, like I was saying,